cleaned the house, and did the gardening. She'd indulged her love for roses, started keeping goats, and occasionally hand-raised orphaned or abandoned calves. For 6 years she'd picked up the slack and made a decent life for herself. But compared to Grady, she didn't feel she was doing nearly enough. Her desire to contribute to the family income had prompted her to establish a mail-order business for her roses, and while Grady had politely listened to her plans, he hadn't encouraged them. Her small venture was just now starting to show a profit, of which Savannah was extremely proud. In the past few months, she'd been spending her evenings working on a catalog. What Grady needed, in Savannah's opinion, was to marry and start a family. At 35, he was well past the age most men settled into family life. He probably would have done so long before now if he hadn't been required to dedicate every waking minute to the ranch. She wondered whether it was too late, whether he'd ever get married. Savannah herself had long since given up any hope of marriage and children. Her maternal urges would have to be satisfied by her animals, she told herself wryly. She'd turned 31 her last birthday, and hadn't dated in the past 4 or 5 years. She rarely thought about having a relationship anymore. Men didn't understand her quiet ways or appreciate her strength or gentleness of spirit. It no longer mattered. She was content with her life. She'd learned to take pleasure in small things, the beauty of flowers, the affection of animals, the comfort of a well-ordered house. Indian paintbrush, bluebonnets, and pink evening primroses, all in bloom, lined the twisting road. Savannah loved spring. The scent of the air brought with it the promise of warm weather and new life. Grady and Wiley, the hired hand who'd been with them so many years he was more family than foreman, had assisted in delivering 14 calves this week, and were looking for that many more in the next couple of days. Savannah glanced at her watch and hoped Grady had been delayed this afternoon. Otherwise, he was going to have a conniption, especially when he realized where she'd gone. Sighing, she turned the familiar bend in the road and caught sight of an abandoned truck parked close to the ditch. Savannah didn't recognize the vehicle. That in itself was unusual. People who didn't know the area hardly ever wandered this far off the beaten path. The truck had seen better days. The color had faded badly, and a large dent in the side revealed a section where rust had eaten a hole the size of a small plate. With the truck parked as it was, 15 miles outside of town, far from anywhere, Savannah couldn't help wondering if something was wrong. She might have stopped to investigate if she hadn't been in a hurry. The decision was taken from her a few miles down the road when she saw a cowboy walking, carrying a saddle. Even from this distance, she could see how weary he was. He seemed to be favoring one side, limping discernibly. At the sound of her approach, he straightened, shifted the weight of his saddle, and stuck out his thumb. Never in all her life had Savannah stopped for a hitchhiker, but this man, miles from anywhere and walking in the opposite direction from town, must have been spent. Savannah pulled over and eased to a stop. She opened the door and climbed out. "Is that your truck parked back there?"
"Yes, ma'am,"
he answered politely. He was tall and wiry, about her age, she guessed. His Stetson rested low on his brow, shading his face from the afternoon sun. When he touched his fingers to the brim in greeting, she noticed that his eyes were pale blue.
"I'd be much obliged for a ride."
Although she'd stopped, Savannah hesitated, unsure what to do. "I wasn't headed toward town."
"As far as you'd take me would be appreciated. Your truck's the first vehicle to come along in more than 2 hours.
He gave her a tired smile.
"I'd hoped to find a ranch and use the phone there, but I haven't seen one yet."
Apparently, he didn't realize he was walking away from promise. "I live 10 or so miles down the road." Shielding her eyes from the glare of the sun, she pointed toward the yellow rose. Riding with her would only take him farther from where he needed to go. She was about to explain as much, then realized he was tired, hurting, and probably hadn't eaten a decent meal in hours, if not days. Grady wouldn't be pleased, but... She shrugged off the prospect of her brother's wrath. "If you like, you can stay the night in the bunkhouse, and I'll drive you to town in the morning." She could tell that her offer surprised him. His eyes widened briefly.
"That's mighty